Hey, welcome back to Leah's Leaves. Today's gross. Yesterday was 80 degrees. Tonight we're under frost warning. Tomorrow night it's going to drop to 28 and have a hard freeze. So, since not much is happening outside, we've had rain intermittently all day long with more coming. I'm going to go ahead and give you a seedling update. But first, I just want to show you something really beautiful. Look at that. That is the back of my truck with 2 cubic yards of wonderful compost from Buckhorn Recycling Facility. I posted a shorter video yesterday showing that. It's just beautiful compost. What I'm doing with that, it'll go as a top layer of my in-ground bed there. That's a 10 by 14 bed in the yard that was here when I moved here. And then also just outside this window is the south side of my house, and I'm putting in an above ground no dig bed with that compost and other amendments, and planting all my 3 sisters' crops along the south side of the house in full sun. Let's start with our updates from things we had seeded a while back. I up-potted basil. We have several kinds of basil. That's a spicy globe basil. Some Emily basil. Emily basil is the only basil, the sweet basil I grew this year that's green. I also have a purple basil. These are some, let's see, I have the cups marked. Whopper, Yunnan, these are sweet peppers. The smaller peppers are going to be sweet varieties, and the bigger ones are the hot hots that I started back in February to give them a head start. Most of them have already been topped already at least once to promote a bushing habit. And many of those from that early planting of hot peppers have already been up potted and are in my portable greenhouse, which I'll show you in a minute. Hi, Claire. Hi, you want to say hi to YouTube? Hi. You like the plants, don't you? This bucket was outside yesterday, and then last night we had some high winds and heavy rain, so I brought them inside. Purple basil, and all of these are dwarf varieties of tomatoes that will go in small containers, and a grow bag with some more of my hot peppers. Just on the back porch, I've got Uzbek, Shin Carota, and Long Rouge Sang carrots that are coming up. I like to grow carrots in buckets because the carrot flies don't get up that high when they hover, and I can control the soil so that there are no obstacles and the carrots grow straight. Here's my current grow rack situation. I'm most excited about these things right there. You see that? That is a Virginia peanut. And the one behind it is a teeny tiny little Virginia peanut. We have some germination already and more sprouts coming. I don't know how many I'll actually get. I know that I planted 7 peanuts for 7 peanut plants. If I get 3 or 4, I'm happy. I planted the peanuts about 3 weeks later than I should have. I just kept thinking about it and then postponing and thinking about it and postponing. And I finally got around to planting them on April 12th, and this is, today's April 26th. So that's 2 weeks ago. That's 2 weeks of growth. I don't know if I'll even get a crop. This is a total experiment here. I live in Western Pennsylvania, and these are a warm weather, long season crop. But I'm hoping that because I'm giving them a head start indoors under grow lights, and the only thing I need to watch for is that I could keep them indoors or under grow lights or in a pot until the flowers form. And then I would need to get them in the ground by then, because as soon as the flowers fade, that's when they begin putting down their pegs, which will eventually produce peanuts. So I have from now until the flowering stage to get these in the ground. So there's plenty of time for the soil to warm up outside and me to get these plants out. Got some zucchini growing. That's Doug's. That's my Uncle Doug's. He brought me some zucchini that he had grown last year. And I saved seeds from one of those zucchinis and getting great germination there. These ones are two colors. There's a golden summer squash, like a straight golden zucchini on the left, and cocazelle on the right. So far, all of those look like the gold. So it doesn't look like I'm getting any germination from my cocazelle, which is a new variety to me. These are some onions. They're doing fine. Down here, flowers, some Orchard Baby sweet corn. All these on the right are Asian greens, bok choy, arugula, some chijimisai, a variety there. And what was in the middle here? Oh, those are my cucumbers in the back half. All these fat leaves. And in the front half are sunflowers. I'm getting good results on the sunflowers. I finally have a place to put sunflowers this year, so I'm growing lots of sunflowers. Down here is the bodacious hybrid sweet corn. That'll go in the ground in about a week and a half. It's fine in here until then. These are some cucamelons. I'm waiting for some seeds that I had replanted, resown in here that hadn't germinated the first time. Some beans back there. And then all of my cucurbits are coming up. Long Island cheese pumpkin, Table Queen acorn squash, Sugar Baby watermelon, Sugar Pie pumpkin, Kajari melon, Yellow Doll watermelon, which is yellow flesh watermelon, and there's one more squash, but I forget the variety off the top of my head. Oh, no, not a squash. It's green honeydew. That's right. Good. Down here, just some extra replanting of eggplant. I did not get good germination on my eggplant this year, y'all. The second sowing is finally coming up. Like that little baby right there. That's a late planting. Obviously, like this one on the right was a late bloomer. So hopefully get some eggplant. There's some cabbages back there, and then the rest of this tray is mostly herbs and flowers. Over here on the right, you'll see everything from statice, celosia, some carnations, plus I think there's some dill back there, and I think there's more sweet marjoram because I need more sweet marjoram. I use a lot of sweet marjoram. And this tray is a hodgepodge because it was originally all sweet peppers. And when the sweet peppers got big enough to up pot, I just put fresh soil in the available seed trays around the smaller pepper plants. And while they continue to grow, I just started a bunch of new stuff. So those are some marigolds that are growing, just little babies. These are more sweet peppers, because I'm going to give some of my sweet peppers to relatives, so I needed to make sure that I had enough for me. More cilantro. This is dwarf lemon cilantro and Indian coriander. The dwarf lemon took a while to get going, but it's finally going now. That's what that is. You can tell the difference because the leaves are a little bit wider. They're fatter, and and then the Indian coriander looks more like a traditional cilantro plant. Now we're outside in the yard. Here's a little kiddie pool. I love using kiddie pools as raised beds because they're durable, they last several seasons, and they're cheap. This bed cost me $5 for the container and like $5 for the soil in the container. And I'll grow a bunch of vegetables in here this summer. Right now, you see some radicchio in the front. Rutabagas in the front and radicchio in the back. And then in this patch that looks like is bare are just a small selection of turnip seeds that were just planted. So get some turnips going. I'm growing radicchio and rutabaga both for the first time this season. I'm very excited. These are some thornless raspberry canes. And the fella who sold them, they're just from a local grower who offered these on Facebook Marketplace for a couple bucks a piece. And he has more, so I think I'm going to go back and get another handful. He also had some elderberry starts. If I can figure out where's a good place to get an elderberry plant going around here, I will. I would love to have elderberries. But I'm excited. I've never grown a thornless variety before, and I love raspberries, but the thorns really are a deterrent in me enjoying the growing process. So a thornless variety is going to be great to have. Out here in my little patriotic red, white, and blue, these are Dollar Tree stackables. I got these 2 years ago. 3 years ago? 2 years ago. My local Dollar Tree didn't have them this year. But there's some Marvel of Four Seasons lettuce that I thickly sowed. I'm just going to grow that as cut and come again. On this side is Swiss chard. And then in the containers below it are a mixture of kale seeds. And I only sowed those yesterday, so they're not going to come up yet. My daylilies are popping. I have a lot of them. I'll be digging some up. My Aunt Colleen's going to take some. And then try to find some local people to take some off my hands so they find a new home. They multiply like rabbits, so I can thin these out and still have plenty. This is my little raised herb patch. It's not quite done yet. My long-term goal is to fill each cylinder with soil and plant out the tops. But I only just yesterday went and got that truckload of compost. So now I finally have what I need to put in there. In here, sorry about the traffic. I live on a trucking highway. Hope you can hear me okay. In here I have some cold tolerant herbs going. There's a rosemary plant that I won received as a door prize at a women's conference this weekend where I was speaking. Some cilantro, some thyme. I have salad burnet growing. That's just coming up now. And all the other little leaves that you see here, this is just radishes. I just threw a bunch of radish seeds in. They grow so fast that I can grow these, harvest them, plant another round, harvest them before the rest of the bed even starts to fill in. And the little chamomile plant, I planted 4. The rabbits ate 2 of them. So I still have 2 more. We're gonna have cold weather, like I said, the next couple of days. So I'll be covering these little tender plants with plastic tarp. For those of you looking for cheap things, I mean, you can always use a bed sheet or something. I like to use a clear plastic shower curtain that I get at the Dollar Tree, and then just weigh down the corners. Keeps all the rain off. And then the sheet doesn't get wet and then freeze. The plastic will come off pretty easily, and it keeps enough structure that if I just put a couple of little bamboo stakes in here to prop up the plastic, it won't pierce the plastic, but it'll put a nice barrier over so that the leaves of the plants don't get squashed if it rains. This is something else I'm babying. This is a Korean spice viburnum that I bought. I bought 2 of them, one for me and one for my mom to plant at her tiny house. Well, she ended up building the tiny house and then selling it. And I planted my viburnum in ground at my last place and left it behind. And then I just brought the pot that had hers in it. But all I did was I was just packing things and I needed to take the pot. So I grabbed the pot with the viburnum in it, not expecting the viburnum to live. And sure enough, it lived. I checked the other day on some growth down here. It's perfectly green, and now I'm seeing buds sprouting here and here. So I'm babying this thing. I put it in a new pot. I gave it a shot of fertilizer. I've thoroughly watered it. It's going to get a cover tonight so that the super cold temperatures don't kill it. I'm going to baby this puppy. If you've never smelled Korean spice viburnum, it's one of the most glorious fragrances ever. More Dollar Tree stackables. These have all my bush beans in them, and I just planted these in the last couple of days. I worked on it a little bit each day for the last couple of days. I have, let's see. For my green beans, I just chose Provider. I had Provider and Contender, and this year I decided to go with the Provider bush beans. And then for colored beans, I grew Gold Rush, which is yellow, Red Swan, which is a burgundy color, and Royal Burgundy, which is actually purple. So I'll have green, purple, yellow, and red bush beans. And I put 2 seeds in each of the cups, and then 2 more seeds in the center of each cluster. And depending on how bushy they get, I may thin them to 1 plant, but I'm gonna leave the 2 to grow for a while and just see if they look like they're drying out too fast or competing for nutrition too much. Then I'll thin out the plants and just have 1 each. But if I can get 2 plants per cell, by golly, I'll try it. Now this is the greenhouse that I have on my porch. These are all the tomatoes and hot peppers and some of the more mature sweet peppers that I up-potted this past week and just brought them out here. With the cold temperatures coming, there's some yellow marigolds, by the way. The marigolds are really doing well. With the cold temperatures coming, what I'll end up doing is bringing every single tray inside this evening into my living room and just surround myself with plants for 3 days. Tomorrow it's only going to be a high of 40s or low 40s. It'll be in the 30s or high 20s over the next 3 nights. So they're going to get babied for a few days. In the in-ground bed, I didn't plant the whole thing out because I was still unpacking and getting settled and everything. So all I did here was just open 1 store-bought bag of composted manure and spread it around and mix it in with the existing soil. We have pretty good soil here. And planted just enough little spring crops to get my garden going. So I have garlic. My garlic is coming up. I planted that. You know, I only moved here in January. Normally you would plant garlic in the fall and then harvest it in the late spring or summer. But this is garlic I only planted in February. So I won't be harvesting it until the fall. These are Wando peas. And they seem to be doing, I had pretty good germination. I think the rabbits got some of my seeds, but that's okay. They haven't messed with it recently. So I have plenty of pea plants. And then next to the pea plants are, let me zoom in here. These are some red beets that are coming up. And next to them are some radishes that are coming up. And next to the radishes, hard to tell from this angle, but down there in the far corner is bronze mignonette, freckles, and Marvel of 4 Seasons lettuce. Kind of all mixed together. Same with the radishes. I mixed them, and the beets I mixed. That way I get them, I can harvest at different times. Some of those radishes are 25 days, some are 30, some are 35, some are 40. And as I harvest the early ones, it gives room for the older ones to grow, and then I get a continual harvest without taking up a lot of space. And it finally warmed up enough that we're just now starting to see some activity in the green stalk. I have a separate video I'll link in the description below to show you what I planted in the green stalk. Some of it is labeled so you can see I've got some spinach growing. Red auroch, that's a new crop for me this year. I've never grown that before. In here, in general, are greens, lettuces, some chigimasai, some dwarf varieties of flowers, dwarf zinnias, nasturtium, some daisies, these are Silver Princess Shasta daisies. They haven't come up yet, and I may re-sow, because I sowed some others. That packet was a couple years old, but it was a Mylar packet. I expected them to still be viable, but I bought some extra from Nicotovka Seed Company in Ukraine before they had to close because of the war. So I might try their seeds this time. There's some little baby red lettuces, some kind. Anyhow, here and there, we're seeing little bits of life. And in the corner of the house, Claire, you're just aching to be on camera today, aren't you? Hi. You gotta stay inside, buddy. And here's what I was talking about earlier. This is the south side of the house, so it gets full direct sun. The sun comes up right there in the east and travels straight over my head. So at no point will the house be the barrier. In fact, it'll absorb some of the heat and give some ambient heat to the plants. This is only about 2 feet so far. I'm actually gonna expand it to 4. I have more cardboard to cut up and bring out. And then this is all gonna be a no dig, no till. There's just a layer of cardboard as a modest weed barrier, and then a good 6 to 8 inches of this fresh compost on top of there, and then I'll plant directly into the compost. And in that spot will go the bodacious corn and the orchard baby corn. And the reason I can grow 2 corns at once is because the bodacious has like a 3-week head start and will tassel first, and then it will begin producing ears before the baby corn produces its tassels. And that will prevent cross-pollination. And then I'll have the table queen acorn squash growing here, and one of the watermelons, I haven't decided which yet, some sunflowers, and some okra. All of which are germinating up there under the grow lights. And those take up the entire space. So it'll be beautiful height and texture, color from the okra blossoms, color from the sunflowers, of course. And I think in this particular section, I'm concentrating on a botanical interests sunflower mix called Drop Dead Red. So there'll be all those like autumn beauty and reddish orange and burgundy colored sunflowers. And then my yellow sunflowers will be either in containers or planted out by the propane tank to block it. I don't need the propane tank full during the summer, so I'm going to grow some sunflowers next to it so that it's not just an ugly propane tank sitting out in my yard. Thanks for tagging along for my little tour. You have now seen every seed that's actually growing. I have other seeds poked into places that haven't popped up yet, of a couple of containers. And I will have more seeds to direct sow, but not until like a month from now, when the temperatures are consistently warm, the soil temperatures are warmer, like some of my annual flowers, and another round of things like peas, maybe more beans. I do have some red noodle beans that are growing inside. Those are going to grow up a teepee trellis around a larger kiddie pool, but I'm not going to fill that kiddie pool as a bed. I'm actually going to use it as a wading pool. So I'm going to create like a little living cabana over the kiddie pool for my own enjoyment. I can't wait. I'll make a video about that project and show you how it goes and give you some updates. I love the idea, so I hope that the concept works. I grew red noodle beans up a bamboo teepee trellis last year, and it worked brilliantly. So that's the general idea, is to build a teepee trellis around 2/3 of the perimeter of the pool, fill the pool with water, and sit in it while there's this canopy of greens overhead on a really hot day. So I have natural shade and some privacy and the ambiance of the plants while I'm cooling off on a hot day. I can't wait for that. Anyway, more coming, more beds still to prep. This compost is not gonna unload itself, so I got today and tomorrow to shovel compost like crazy. Tried to get it out of my truck bed and without wearing out my back. But anyway, you do what you can do, and then you don't sweat what you can't do, right? I'm learning a lot. I'm sharing it here. I sure hope you'll come grow with me. Leave a comment below. Let me know how your garden plans are coming, what interesting varieties you're trying this year, or any questions you might have about what you've seen as far as my what I'm growing in, what I'm using as soil medium, or what seeds I'm using. I'd love to share my tips and tricks, and I'd love to learn from you as well. Bye.